Welcome everyone to our January 2024 TBW Tuesday session where we are going to review and reflect on 2023 and jump into planning our best year ever with the help of Mel Robbins. Who better to help us than an amazing woman who's created this fabulous workbook, has an amazing podcast, and I love her stuff. She's so real. She's so genuine, and she gets down to the nitty gritty. So that's what we're going to get to do today. So I am your state president, Karen Gray, and helping me today, and everybody knows and loves her, but for the purpose of the video, Laura Wisenhunt is one of our past state presidents. She's also our sitting parliamentarian on the current state board. So Laura, thanks for joining me today for this session and diving in. And I'm going to let you kick us off and help us get started because you had a really great insight on this first session or this first question that is asked in this workbook, if you can see it.
So that's right. Excited to make 2024 the best year. Thank you, Madam President, for this opportunity and joining and co-hosting. TBW Tuesdays are special, near and dear to my heart. So it's wonderful to see you ladies, and thank you for joining us for this evening. So if you got the workbook, and the link is in the chat, but let us know. Feel free to raise your hand. This is a safe circle, and we love to be interactive with you. So you can always chat, and you can raise your hand if you'd like to come off mute and ask a question. Let's really make this intentional and have this time together to utilize it. Because what I truly believe is what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you make time, this is a really user-friendly workbook, and I sat down and did it in 30-45 minutes. So it's not very time consuming unless you make it. And that's why Karen's laughing and saying, because I had a little insight and tips of what not to do from Laura, wasn't it? So whenever you're looking on the question number one, what were the highlights from your past year of your life? Think back over the past 12 months and what really stands out to you, and don't think just like any kind of survey or anything, don't think really hard about it. Just start pen to paper and writing those down. And then it gives you a tip and said, maybe you need some help. Let's look back over your camera roll. Well, if anybody knows me, Laura loves pictures, and I have about 14,000 pictures on my phone, and my phone is like crying, I need more space, delete pictures. So it took me a minute, and that's the first tip from Laura, is what not to do. Maybe don't get distracted looking through your camera roll, because then I said, oh, I need to make this photo book for my kids and my grandkids, and looking back through the year. But what my epiphany was, and what made me realize, is that the things that I just started writing down in the first little paragraph, and then whenever I started going through each month for my camera roll, were different. So the camera roll is personal, and you take pictures of what's really important to you. Events, family, friends, trips. So that is what speaks to you and what you value. But whenever you were just, and it also matters to what mindset you're in. So half of this I did at home, and half of this I did on my lunch hour. And so you're at work and you're at lunch, and so you had the work brain going, and then you're at home, and then you have the family brain going. So that is also matters of what mindset you're in, and what you're thinking of what's important to you. So I hope that helps. But as you go through this, it was really awakening to me, and because I may not have taken a whole lot of pictures from work, but I took a lot of pictures of family and friends, and all my babies' birthdays.
I love that.
Thank you, Miss Karen.
I was just thinking, I love that insight of how we kind of have these different focuses when we're in different elements. So I'll share my insight kind of on how I saw that. And then I would love for everybody, if you'll just share one thing that maybe came up for you or one thing that's coming up for you right now on this first section. Um, when I went over the past 12 months, what highlights stood out to me, I kind of went through my mental role on my calendar, right? So these were the things on my calendar. My dad moved to New Mexico, becoming state president, travels. They were all really about travels. Because those are the things on my calendar, and that's kind of how I keep track of time. But then when I went through the camera roll, much like Laura said, it brought back all of the important things that were um, things that were valuable to me in who I was and who I'm becoming. So it really brought up so much more. So I love that action of going through the calendar to refresh our memory on things because it's so easy to just remember um, some of the more painful things or the things that were just the big stuff and forget some things that were just those really small movements that have been pivots in our world. So that's kind of my insight. Mary, you're on my top left, so I'll pass it over to you to share any insights you had that came up.
Um, I didn't go through the camera roll. I did the calendar, but I live and die by my calendar. Everything is on there. But you're right. Whenever I was just doing the first part of it, I mean, the first thing came up, I sold my house, downsized, moved into an apartment last year. But then whenever I start looking through the calendar, it's the three trips to see my grandkids and
Yeah.
in the different months and the theater that I went to, the pictures, for the different theater events. I love theater, musicals and plays and all that stuff. And saw a lot of those with friends here and friends and family, and Marty went with me. But and so that was, like I said, that's basically all on my calendar because everything goes into my calendar. Somebody was looking over my shoulder not too long ago. I had my calendar open looking for something, and she said, what are all those colors? And I said, well, they represent different things. It's whether or not it's a personal event or a doctor's appointment or whatever. I've got it all color coded on my calendar, on my Google Calendar. So I better not ever lose my Google Calendar because that's my life.
Totally, mine is too. Mine looks like a rainbow. I totally understand. Miss Doris, what about you? Did you have anything different that came up or that you kind of had a aha moment about for your question number one?
Not really. I mean, I used both. I used the camera roll first, and I was getting distracted. So then I said, I better get going and get through this. It's going to take too long. And I can always, get on one of those rabbit chasing roads where you just kind of go off site.
Mhm.
But mine was, the amount of travel that we did. And it was extended travel. It was some of it was with family. We were able to accomplish one of my husband's big bucket list items with a Panama Canal trip, but also the ability to travel with a TBW past state president who we thought it was going to be her last, or her family thought it was going to be one of her last cruises. And instead she said, oh no, I want to go with y'all on this trip to Spain next year. So um, things like that brought back great memories, and travel is always and they've all been really good experiences. So I that was a real nice thing to remember.
I love that. Yeah, I'm like Laura, I have like 14,000. So I realized, and I didn't know this before, you can search by month or year. And so I would just highlight over the months instead of going through all the individual pictures. And I didn't get lost in my sea of memory that's taken on my phone. So importance here is to not judge, right? We're just observing and not really taking judgments yet. I mean, later on we do some stop, continue, start, but
Okay. I hear
so
you.
right here we really want to just look back over the highlights and without judgment, just really recognize what are the things that we did that were important to us, the highlights of our memories. And some of those aren't good. They are. They just
Yeah.
are that they are. So that's good. I love that your awareness of the things with Julian and how that works for y'all, right? There's no judgment there. It's just it works. And it's a
Yeah.
season.
It is definitely a season, not forever.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Really easy for us to look at this and just feel all the feelings of what that year ended up meaning to us. So I really want to maybe challenge you or encourage you to go back and look at the year without judging it as good or bad, easy, hard, and maybe just reflect on what is it that I grew through and who did I become and what are the things that how did I grow? How did I really shine during this year, even in hard situations? So maybe I stepped up and I was a better friend, or maybe I was, I got more involved in the community. So things that may feel lighter if you need to, or maybe the process is that you get to share, because this is just for you, right? We're not sharing this with anybody. So maybe you could share that these are the hard things. It is what it is sometimes, and that's okay too. So, but thank you for being willing to share that with us. Miss Alice, I know you just downloaded it too, but what's coming up for you in this place of the,
I went through a lot of stuff this last year. The year before, my sister lost her husband, and she's trying to raise 4 special needs kids on her own. So I spent a lot of time driving back and forth to Dallas, trying to be there to support her. My husband retired this year. I was in the hospital 3 times this year. And so it was a real tough year, but I was able to keep my business open and was able to keep my employees hired, paid, bills paid, and actually expanded my business a little bit, brought in some new equipment. And so I made a lot of changes, like I said, in my life. And I can just know that there's support there for me as long as I don't try to take it all on myself, and
I think that question 2 is really, as we move into that, it really helps us take all of those things that have happened and kind of be aware of them and then transition, just like you just said, that this whole process kind of allows us to sit with those things that challenged us, the hardest aspects of our lives, like Brandy and you just shared. So thank you for sharing that, being vulnerable. I appreciate that so much. We all go through different things, and we can either see them as happening to us or see them as happening for us and for us becoming better versions of ourselves. So I think that sounds like what you were able to turn that into. So thank you for that. Des, will you share? I know you just started, but is there anything coming up for you and just reflecting on your year? And then we'll try to get back on time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of letting everybody's sharing so much. We want to stay on time.
Yeah, I'll keep it short because, like you said, just got the thing, but am excited to see the year in review. I like that. I love the little memories that come up on my Google Photos. They help remind me of good things and sometimes bad things, but it's important to remember those stepping stones. And so for me, it's mostly been career and family milestones this year.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so moving into question number 2, as we just kind of mentioned, the hardest aspects of the past year of your life, just identifying if anything really immediately stands out. And then again, the way she goes through this process, she asks a question and then she takes you another level deeper. And so we're not going to go through this section or have you share on this section just because this can get really personal, but she covers the area of health and wellness, career, money, or school, relationships, love, friendship, and then as Pat shared, the area of fun and happiness. And then as Alice shared, the areas of purpose, spirituality, and meaning. So she really does allow us to dive into, if you think of like a wheel on a tire, you know, it has all the spokes. If you're at the center, what are all of the spokes that are coming out from you? And, you know, it could be your health and wellness, your career, money, how you spend your time and make money, your relationships, friendships, fun and happiness. So the things that you do that you enjoy, that you care about, and then your why, your purpose, your spirituality, your faith. And so if you haven't dove into question 2 because maybe that was a little hard or you kind of got stuck on one section, this is really, really important because this also allows you to reflect and get really solid on what your foundation is and what didn't work for that foundation, or where you maybe didn't allow yourself to focus on for your self-care, your own health, and things that you want to reflect on. So really take some time here because it's about reflecting on what happened so that when you're going forward, you can be intentional. This whole thing is about intentionality and taking 2024 with a specific lens of I'm going to choose to be intentional about what I do with my time so it's more efficient, more fun, more full. So the quote here that she shared is, when your goals are informed by the things you've struggled with, those goals take on a richness of meaning. And I loved that quote because it's so true. If life is just happening and we're not really steering the ship, then we don't know when we've arrived at a certain destination because we didn't have a goal set out. But when we set those goals and they're informed, so we know what port we just left from and we know where we want to get to, we know if we're on target. So kind of like Doris is going to Belize to go fishing. And if they didn't know what fish they wanted to catch, they wouldn't know what bait they needed or what kind of poles they needed or what kind of boat they need to be on. But having all of that and knowing in the past, you know, well, we used this kind of bait and it didn't work, so we need to use this time. Another little fishing analogy I thought I'd throw out there. So any questions about section 2 or anything, Laura, that you want to share about that one? And then I'll turn over the section 3 to you.
Before on section 2, I did listen to the podcast the other day, and one of the things that I wrote down whenever she was talking about all that was to give yourself permission to move on, to focus on what matters, and to be happy.
So good. Thank you for sharing that.
That meant something to me.
So what did that mean to you? What did you take away from that comment? How did it hit?
That I don't have to stay stuck. I need to decide that the move on part means a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to share that in the chat because I think that's so good for anybody that's downloading it.
Exactly. Give yourself permission. Something that resonated and came out of my year of presidency with TBW in 2020 to 2022, that was the year of COVID. And so I said it a lot, well, just give me grace and space. And that's kind of giving yourself permission. And we also learned how to pivot, adapt, and change. And that's where I see this evolving. So here we are now. We're looking at, what did you learn about yourself over the past year? And if you don't journal, or if you don't make those to-do lists, we all are busy women. We've heard from all of you, and the lives, all the hats that we wear. I have a member that came into my credit union and said, where's your hat rack? And I said, what? It kind of threw me off guard. And I was like, oh, all the hats. I got you. So give yourself permission. I love that, Mary. Thank you for sharing. But in question 3, what did you learn about yourself? And then diving deeper in each of those categories again, with health, career, money, relationships, and then also with fun, purpose and spirituality. But even going deeper, and what what made you proud? What did you do that made you proud or happy? Or what made you proud of paying it forward? That was a revelation for me too. Um, we call it doing acts of kindness, right? Random acts of kindness. But Karen did this with me, and she texted me and asked me. So that's the bonus here, is that you can even ask a friend. So even reach out to your friends and family and ask them, how did I grow in the past year? And this isn't tooting your own horn, but really asking, how did I make a difference in your life? What can I do to be a better friend, a better role model, a better leader? So that really resonated with me, and even taking it back to my team, my staff, in that here we are at a new year, and I've got some new team members. So that's what we always do, right? We set goals for our team, we set goals for growth, but then you set personal goals too. So looking at that, diving in a little deeper, looking at each category, but also what makes you proud, what makes you happy, what brings you joy. I think here is the why, right? That what gives you purpose. And I love it that even, my family, my kids come to me and, how do I know my purpose? What am I supposed to do with my life? And so we don't all have a crystal ball, but just diving in and really thinking about this. So I started saying earlier that if you don't journal, if you don't make notes or have post-it notes all over your desk like I do, having set those goals, what I learned from me, what I learned about myself, is that I may be a procrastinator, and I work better under pressure. But if I really am intentional and set that goal and set that to do, it sure gave me a lot of pleasure to mark it off. And then something that I was dreading, and then it come out to be not that bad.
Right.
So you try to eat the elephant all in one bite, but you've just got to take little bites and dissolve it and make it happen. So just jump in and do it.
I love that. Thank you, Laura. That was so good. And yes, I asked several different people. So several of my close friends, my mentor, how do you think I've grown this past year? And that part was unexpected. Because I hadn't planned on doing that. So when it came up, that we did this in our coaching, when I went through coaching school too, and it was a really impactful part of that process as well. But everyone's view of how I had grown or what they had observed of me throughout the year was very different not very different, but it was somewhat different than my own personal observations of where I thought I had grown. And it was kind of humbling and very sweet and really felt good. So I really encourage everyone to reach out to people that you trust and love, that love you, will be kind, to ask them, how have I grown? How have I impacted? Or how do you see me living my life this year? Am I living a life of integrity, of who you know me to be? That part was really inspirational. Has anybody else done that exercise? Have you gone through this part and done that yet? No. Miss Berry, did you do that part?
3.
Yeah.
No,
The
3
bonus
was-
question on section 3.
3 was hard for me. I did not.
Okay. Doris, did you do that section? Has anybody else done that? Sorry to call everybody out. It's okay if you haven't.
That's okay. Mm-hmm.
I did, or I started it. I guess the insightful thing that really came to light for me was that I always say I'm going to take time for this or that, or in goals you set at the beginning of the year. And I find that in looking at my day, and I find that even though I get great pleasure in doing all of my volunteer work and helping different organizations, but then there's not a lot of time left over for me at the end of the day, the week, the month, etc. And so that made me kind of look at that. I kind of let some things go in my business because my business was rocking along pretty well. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, this tenant needs a lot of help. And, I've got some things that I really need to shore up in my business to make it continue to be successful. And I have a business center, ladies, so I rent space to small businesses in a rural area with the goal of making very reasonably priced space so that people can bring essential services to a local rural community. And so that really made me stop and think that, while I'm president of this and working on that and designing this and helping, I sort of need to come back and focus on some of the, the thing that I, was doing well. And not that it's failing or anything, but there are some places where I really need to shore that up. So trying to go back and Laura was talking a little bit about being president. I know when I was president, I had certain days of the week where, and TBW Tuesdays was one of those things. If it was Tuesday, then my activities dealt with TBW. Wednesdays were, my preparation on my curriculum and teaching to my seniors. So sort of getting back to that and then realizing the fact that I need to carve out some time for me. So I got a wonderful book in our White Christmas event for our TBW meeting. And so it's by Brene Brown. And so I'm taking some time every day, even if it's at the very end of the day, midnight, after midnight, to read a couple of pages because that's always I'm going to read more, but I don't do that. So do a lot of podcasts, not reading.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. So it sounds like what you've done is kind of transition into our personal audit of really assessing those levels. I love that. Thank you for helping us segue that section. So the bonus section here where you write down or circle the number that best describes how you feel about each part of your life in 2023, and then explain to yourself why you feel that way. So again, we're covering those 5 areas: health, work, school, money, love, life, friendship, happiness, fun, spirituality, meaning, and self-love. So she breaks them down a little bit more, but it's those 5 spokes. And really laser focusing in on the why. Why did it work or why did it not work, so that we can begin to look forward. So if you haven't done that section, that's a really, really important reflection. You can just go through it super quick. You can even just write a couple words like health. I was a 3. And going through this episode or this workbook and some things, I know that I am not disciplined on my health. I give myself way too many outs. And so that was my assessment. So going through this, getting your baseline, if you're familiar with having a baseline, so you have a foundation of where you're starting. Then at the end of 2024 or the beginning of 2025, we can do this exercise again and have a new baseline. And so we can go back and reflect and see, okay, where did I start and where am I? How did having this resource in place help me to move forward in 2024? So looking forward, Laura, if you'll take question 4, and we'll kind of talk about what this looks like going forward.
Yes. So we're all in business, or we've done something to get us to this point so far in our life. So now we look at, what are we going to stop? What are we going to start? And what do we want to continue with? Just like cleaning out that closet. You look at something and, does this bring me joy? Do I need to keep it? Do I need to put it in a donation box, or do I need to throw it away? So same kind of thing with your inventory. What in all the areas, again, in each category, what things in life are you going to stop doing? So again, thinking about it for your purpose, your why. If it's and even in the inventory that you just went through and looking at that, really pulling all those thoughts in together. If it's not benefiting you, if it's not benefiting your why, your purpose, your family, your health, your wellness, and your future goals, then that would be something that you want to stop. If your inventory provided a thought-provoking something that, I need to do this in order to accomplish this goal. So that would be something that you want to start. And then you have a really big project that has now continued on into 2024. That is something that you're going to continue. So my fun project for my credit union, for you San Angelo ladies, you know that we are the wool capital of Texas, and we have a lot of sheep. So my credit union has purchased a sheep, and now I've contracted an artist who will be developing a design. And my credit union is San Angelo Federal Credit Union, best credit union in San Angelo. And we are 85 years this year. So for our 85th anniversary, I'm so excited. So spoiler alert, now that it's going to be on YouTube, our annual meeting is going to be in March, and hopefully I will have a sheet to unveil by then or thereafter in April. So that is my short-term goal, and that is something that is continuing from 2023 into 2024.
I love it. So for those that don't know, they're metal sheeps that are like little statues.
Guess I should
Talking
clarify
about a
that.
sheep, SHEEP.
Yes,
Yes.
they're about 3 foot high or 4 foot high. They're
And
big.
they are all over San Angelo. They're big enough for an adult to sit on and ride. Like, it doesn't move, but like literally they're that big.
And they're all painted or decorated. Each place gets to decide how they decorate it. And so each of them are decorated, and there's actually kind of like a tour of the sheep.
We have over 100 sheep statues in San Angelo. So area businesses, you purchase the sheep. It's a downtown San Angelo fundraiser. So yes, Brandy, Desiree, we all have them at our offices. Desiree has one at the SBDC, and other credit unions have them. So I've been eyeing them, and you name. So we also went through and made our members get a part of it, and how our members are going to have buy-in or have that value is the sheep also. So you have to purchase the foundation that the sheep stands on, or think about that. So we're going to have brick pavers that members can purchase and stamp their name in it. So that's their legacy. So it's an exciting project, and that's what came out for me whenever I was thinking, okay, this is something I'm going to continue, and one of my work goals. Something fun that I can share. Other work goals may not be so fun to share.
I love it.
But I'll turn it back over to you to wrap things up for question 5, Madam President.
So so question 5 and 6 is just that.
5 and
So
6,
we
yeah.
we stop, continue, and start. So we kind of covered that. So be sure and go through each of those sections and recognize the areas that you kind of want a green light, yellow light, and red light. That's how I do them. For me, I do, my start is a green light, my continue is yellow, and my stop is a red. So on my board, I have that and the markers. But we're going to take all of that, and now what do we want to do with that? So what do we want to create differently in 2024? So we'll look at everything we've planned. Start, stop, continue. We'll pick one thing that we're going to focus on, because it's really easy to get in overwhelm and do nothing. And because I'm such a multitasker, it's exceptionally easy for me to get in overwhelm and do nothing. So I have to focus on something. And so you pick your thing, or maybe two things if you have to, a personal and a professional, and identify what you're going to stop doing, a commitment. So make sure that you're committed to this, what you're committed to continuing, and what you're committed to starting. And then really dig in deep and identify what scares you about the changes that you want to make. And it's important to be really transparent and honest here, because without acknowledging the fear that's coming up or what's maybe challenging you or causing you to pause there, you can't address it and you can't move on. But then the next section is to really reflect on, what are you excited about? What's going to keep you going through this? How is this going to impact your life? If you're looking back at this from December 31st, 2024, I did this and this is how it feels. That's a great place to sit in that reflection. And so we're going to go from this section of that reflection on these goals, this focus, and then dive into the one thing, the one goal that we're going to work on and why that goal matters. And then go in even deeper on, what is that mattering to me right now at this point in my life? And that gets you back to your why. Because if it doesn't matter enough, you need to choose another goal. And so on page 23, is your why strong enough? So I would love if anybody has gone through this section. Has anybody, let me ask that first. Mary, have y'all got to that part yet? Okay. So we asked that you get to page 21. So we didn't expect that you had to, but some people cheat and they go forward. So, so if you haven't reflected on this, this is the place to go back and listen to the podcast, because Mel gives us a lot of insight on her podcast. If you haven't listened to it, this is a great place to get to page 21 and then make sure that you're listening to those podcasts, because digging into the why and how you're going to make this happen is something that really deserves our focus. It deserves us taking the time and just setting it aside for us to focus on this, because we never do that enough as women. Especially, we're multitasking, we're wearing all these hats and pulling them off of the hat rack, 5 or 6 at a time sometimes. And oh, thank you. Alice asked, where do I find the podcast? And it's the Mel Robbins podcast. So if you go to Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcasts, if you have, or Google Podcasts, just Google Mel Robbins, MELROBBINS, and her podcast will come up. And it's the last few episodes. Yes, thank you, Laura. It's the last few episodes that she has put out. So it'll say 2023, and then I think she goes right into the first of 2024. So
if you were on Facebook, Alice, we also shared this on our Texas Businesswomen Across Texas. It's a Facebook group, and also on our TBW of San Angelo, Texas Businesswomen of San Angelo. So that's where we shared this for the free workbook, and then that takes you to Mel Robbins' page where you can find her podcast.
Perfect. Thank you. So the questions that she has us reflect on going into page 24, once we've identified the goal, is to, Brandy shared that the episode dated 12/20 is specifically about the workbook. Yeah, there's a couple, I think there's 2 or 3 that she actually covers. But yeah, absolutely, that's where it starts. When will you know if you've succeeded in your goals? So this is, I think, a missing component that a lot of people, or a mistake that a lot of people make with setting goals, is they don't identify how they're going to know if they've achieved it, if it's not dollar driven. So if I say my goal is to make X number of money this year. I want to sell $100,000 in whatever. That's easy. If I want to lose 50 pounds, that's easy. But what if I want to be happier in my life? How do we quantify happier? I want to have better relationship with my kids. How do we identify better? So depending on what your goal is, it's really important that you identify, number one, that it's the right goal for you, that it's measurable, and that you have an identifier to know when you've achieved it. How will you know if you've succeeded? So she really allows us to dig in deep and covers this on the podcast to go really linear into the nitty gritty of the why and the how we'll know if we've done it. So then the final part on page 24 is identifying someone to help you be accountable, someone that you value their opinion and you want them to know about your goal and to help you achieve it, but also to give you insight and guidance through the process. So having those people in our lives are really important. I call them your front row. So who's in your front row that's going to help you? Like if you were on the stage of your life is this stage, who's in the front row of your life that's cheering you on, that's holding you accountable, that, if you're up there and your fly's open, they're telling you so that you're saved. Or you got your skirt in the back of your pants, or the skirt in the back. Anyway, so, okay, section 20 or page 25, how will you make it happen? So Laura, I'm going to turn this one over to you and then we'll wrap things up. We're right at 8:30.
Okay. So how will you make it happen? We've really reflected. This does take some time, and like I said in the beginning, so coming full circle, what you put into this workbook is what you're going to get out of it. If you want to be intentional, if you want to make 2024 the best year yet, and really tackle those, what is your first action? We've talked about it. You've written a lot about it and put a lot of thought into it. So what is that first step? What will you do? And document it. Being accountable, being intentional, that all quantifies in this workbook and in these actions. So what is one action? One action that you just took was coming on this TBW Tuesday today and sharing your time with us. Being vulnerable and sharing your personal thoughts and feelings with us. We appreciate that. And then how it felt to make that first step. Praise, what I learned, and I don't know where I picked this up, but fail is just the first attempt in learning. So don't be afraid to take that first step. Just keep going. You have to keep putting one foot in front of each other. And we all are in business. And if you have a strategic plan for your business, have a strategic plan for your life. Have a strategic plan for this goal. Just like Ms. Karen was talking about, making SMART goals. We all learned that. Being measurable, specific, attainable. But some things may not be a quantifiable goal or end result. But what is going to make you happy? What is going to put that on paper to help you get there? So each morning, what I call affirmations in your devotional, or what just makes you wake up, what makes you start ticking? What are those tactical action plans that you're going to take to get you towards this goal? So spend 5 minutes journaling, making sure that you are still on goal, on set while you're working towards that. Is this something that you're going to achieve in the first quarter or the first half of the year? So making sure and being accountable, checking in with your accountability partner and making sure you're staying on track. So just remember to take that action every day. We all wake up, we all have a cup of coffee. So make that part of your morning routine.
I love it. Yes, yes, yes. So the main thing is you've already made the first step, but the main thing is to just get started. Mm-hmm. So in the next 5 minutes after we get off this call, just pick one thing that you're going to do. The simplest, tiniest action is okay, but what is your commitment to you? This isn't about anyone else. This is about you. And then once you do that, Mel says, walk away from the workbook and then do that thing. So if it's, I'm going to block it out on my calendar, go do that. If it's, I'm going to read more, take one step to make that happen. Maybe it's setting the book beside your bed, or maybe it's choosing the book, ordering it on Amazon, whatever it is that you want to do. If it's, getting healthy, maybe it's placing an order of healthy food so that you can throw away some stuff, or throwing away the bag of M&Ms that's on your counter, Karen. Maybe you should do that. Not throwing myself under the bus, but I wanted to finish those. But what is it that you can do? And then just begin to take action, because the main thing is that this is just a great dream or an ideal plan. If it's not anything you take action on, it doesn't matter. There's no value here to you other than it gave you a warm fuzzy or it made you feel guilty. So we don't want to leave it there. So spend the time making yourself a priority, as Laura said, and following through. And if you need someone to help you with that, we have a tremendous sisterhood of people that will help you stay accountable. That's what these monthly meetings are for. We have the Facebook group and the chat group that you can chat out. Hey, this is my commitment to me. We can support each other. But just know that you do deserve to have the best year of your life, because Mel says it's on page 27 if you don't believe me. You are brave enough to start. You can gain the clarity to know what you want, and you do have the courage to go after it. So I just thank you so much for being here. We were able to get a little more vulnerable on the beginning of our call. So thank you for sharing that information. I will go ahead and edit that part out because those are private things. So when we go to YouTube, that section will be edited out just to keep everybody comfortable, and so that we're keeping it real but not too revealing, because we always say this is a safe space. So if there's one goal that you do want to share that you would like, or one takeaway that you would like to share with those that are going to be watching this, would love for you to share that now, and we can go back and fill that section in, or we can just leave it here at the end. Either way, editing is easy to do, so we can make it work. But I wanted to just give that offer and let y'all know that we shared some personal things, so we'll take that part out. But any final words, any goals, anything you want to share about this process and what you want to maybe encourage others to do as well?
But one of the things I'm going to do, I jumped off the call because Stacy called and said, is it too late for me to join? And I go, we're just working through the workbook. So she and I are going to actually work through this, not do it all at one time, but I know she's trying to stretch and grow. And so that'll help me learn more about how she's thinking, because I'm still trying to learn how to be a parent to an adult.
That's a different process for sure than parenting toddlers or teenagers.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Anyone else have a reflection, Laura?
Well, I can appreciate that because I shared that with my kids. One of my stepsons, he's jumping off and doing his own business with Happy Salsa. And so I shared this with him. I shared this with my son, who's becoming a team lead and building his team. And so I see them making their goals already. And I said, this is such a value for you to write it down and put it on paper. So I can appreciate that, Miss Pat, sharing that and sharing the journey with your child. That's awesome.
I love it. And I'm tagging Mel Robbins and everything, so maybe she'll see some of our stuff. That would be cool too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was doing the call tonight, so I'm kind of giggling because.
Oh my gosh. I would love for Mel Robbins. Oh man, sorry to mislead. I hope no one else thought I was misleading. No, we're just using her book, but I am not beyond begging and asking her to come on because that would be so cool.
We could have success stories to share.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. What, Miss Pat?
I'm sorry, I was saying we could have some success stories perhaps
Yes,
future.
absolutely.
Tag her, so.
That's right. That's right. And she's encouraged everybody to do this. So that's where I got the idea was from her podcast was, take this and do this with other people or, do it with a group or share it. And I was like, oh, perfect. So
Mhm. The perfect way to start off a new year.
absolutely. I love it. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Alice or Brandy, Des? Y'all have been kind of quiet. Anything else to share?
I
No,
put
but-
in the chat an app that I use because I think our health, especially as women, we don't put a lot of value in our health and how much that affects our mood, which ultimately affects our working environment. And so for me personally, one of the things that I use is an app, and I just track when you talk about data-driven goals, right? I can literally go in that app and as the super nerd that I am and say, these are the activities that took place on days that I was in a good mood. And these are activities that took place on days that I was in a bad mood. And you can see some correlation there, like what's happening. Is it health related? Because that's primarily what I track, or health symptoms. But it's really kind of a cool app, and it's a great way to put that analytical perspective on some of your life goals.
I love that. So for anybody listening, if you can't see the chat, it's called Daylio, Daylio. So Daylio, if you get tagged in this, we'd appreciate some affiliate money if you make any money off of us. It's going to a good cause. But thank you everyone for signing on, for participating, for being vulnerable and sharing, and for being willing to step in and support each other in such a loving environment. You guys are always just the best. I love you so much, and really look forward to seeing the way that this progresses and reflecting on this at the end of the year or 1st of January. We'll do a look back and check in and maybe do this again if anybody is interested. I think it would be a great exercise. So thank you all so much. I'm going to end the recording. And thank you for joining us for another TBW Tuesday.